cold and wet in Johannesburg this morning. I hope all of you are keeping warm. I hope all of you are safe. It came out a few days ago that a Zimbabwean national named Elvis Nyati, who was 43 years old, was killed by a gang, or not by a gang, by a mob, an angry mob in Diepsloot, which is a township just north of Fourways in Johannesburg. Elvis is survived by his wife, and he has 4 children in Zimbabwe. He was a gardener in Fourways. Fourways is one of the top northern suburbs in Johannesburg. I think Pro Kid used to always rap about, I'll never separate with the cast, no mangaye Fourways. Fourways, I think, falls under Sandton, the greater Sandton, including Bryanston. But look, it's been a couple of weeks, if not months, of almost a similar narrative in this country of foreigners and illegal foreigners. Elvis Nyati was burnt alive. He was beaten. I don't know if he was beaten to death, but he was beaten by a mob and then he was set alight, burnt. And he becomes now the latest picture of what we call xenophobic attacks, with another man who had been burnt years ago. Nhlanhla Lux, who is one of the leaders of Operation Dudula and who is the president or the leader of Soweto Youth Parliament, has been trending for weeks because with Operation Dudula, they've been trying to push to ensure that there's a spotlight on illegal foreigners, undocumented immigrants in South Africa, and the fact that they need to leave, and how our government, specifically through the South African Police Services and Home Affairs, and even border control, immigration, they're not doing enough to deal with, people that are in this country illegally. And these people come here, some of them, they come here and they commit crimes. They sell drugs, they traffic South Africans, they rape, they beat and kill, they steal, And I've made a couple of videos about this. And a lot of people have been confused about my stance on it. And I've tried to really, really be as clear as I can. The laws that we have in this country were not decided on by the masses of the Black Africans. We have inherited colonial laws, which were set when the British colonialists came and took over South Africa. We use Roman Dutch law, which comes from that side. When the apartheid government run by Afrikaners came into power and ran this country, they put in some laws which favored specifically white Afrikaners. They pushed Black people off their land. But by and large, they kept the same colonial laws. When the African National Congress, the ANC government, came and took over in 1994 to manage this country again, a few policies were brought into effect, policies such as Black economic empowerment. The Constitution was drafted, which speaks about redress and redistribution and fixing the ills of the past. But by and large, they've kept the colonial laws to this day. A lot of our presidents, if not all our presidents, still go and pay homage to the Queen of England, Queen of the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth. The Zulu King, I know, Uzwelithini in the past, I won't be surprised if Umisu Zulu currently are also going to go pay homage to the Queen. It seems that South Africa is still in effect a British colony. We still go to the Commonwealth Games, which are basically games for countries that fall under the custodianship of the United Kingdom. Along with our colonial laws are the borders that were brought in by the colonialists, British in this country, I believe in Zimbabwe as well, Zimbabwe having been Rhodesia, Zambia being Rhodesia as well. I think Zimbabwe may have been southern and Zambia northern Rhodesia, named after Cecil John Rhodes, a great colonizer and a great champion for the Queen. Cecil John Rhodes wasn't necessarily sent by the Queen in the same way Trevor Noah wasn't sent by the South African president to go and be great in America. Elon Musk and Patrick Soon-Shiong, I think is his name. Elon Musk being the wealthiest man in the world with close to 300 billion US dollars. And Patrick Soon-Shiong, I'm not sure of his name, sorry, being the wealthiest medical doctor in the world. These are South African born people. They weren't sent by the South African president. They weren't sent some king in South Africa to go do great things in America. Or someone like DJ Black Coffee, who's just won his first Grammy Award. These are men that went overseas to go and do great things, and in effect was celebrated by where they came from. Cecil John Rhodes actually came to South Africa because he was sick, and his brother was here, and they said that the climate was better here. So he came here, and when he got here, he saw opportunity, He became an entrepreneur, became an opportunist, he became a great leader and statesman. And even in Zimbabwe, Cecil John Rhodes was actually loved. I believe his body's still buried there. He loved Zimbabwe very, very much as a country. But obviously, he's been linked to a lot of atrocities that were committed by him and other British people that came here. But we've got these colonial borders. Ours are British, some are French, some are Portuguese in places like Mozambique, Angola. Yeah. And just as the Afrikaners inherited this, the black ANC government also inherited the same colonial borders. So South Africans have not been consulted, they did not decide, but we've had to agree that we respect the rule of law, we respect the constitution, and we respect the borders. And the rest of the African continent basically is the same. What that means is that if people that are not from South Africa want to come in here, they need to follow a process. How do you get into South Africa? You need a passport. You probably need a visa that you probably get at the border gates or at the airport if you're flying in. And you need to get permission, either as a tourist, just to come and visit for a period, or as a student because you have a study permit, or a work permit because a certain company has identified that they want you to come and work for them, and you get permission to be here. When you come in here without following procedure and process, you're called an illegal foreigner, an undocumented immigrant. This applies, of course, to all Black Africans. This applies to Asians, people from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India. This applies to Chinese, Korean, Taiwanese, Vietnamese people that are here. It applies to Europeans. I think Lebanese people, any Russians, any British people, any Spanish, Portuguese, and Americans. If there are white Americans that came in here without following the processes and procedures, they are here illegally. Australians as well. That's how it works. It's not about race. It's about if you followed procedure, because at some point we agreed that people that were born here after a certain period were deemed South African citizens. And we've agreed, as you may understand it, if the Black South African masses did not agree with how this country was run, the assumption is that they would vote differently. So they wouldn't vote for the African National Congress. Zulu people would not welcome the Zulu king. Same with the kings WaXhosa, same as the Ndebele kings. The Swati king obviously has his own kingdom, Eswatini. The Tswanas, the Sutus, of which they also have their own kingdoms. Lesotho in particular, I think Botswana is a democracy. The Tsonga and Venda kings as well. I don't know if I left out any others. The assumption is that people would revolt. But our people have become so politically illiterate, so academically illiterate, miseducated, undereducated, uneducated. The people don't know that they have power. They don't know that one voice out of 60 million actually carries weight. And if that one voice speaks loud enough, other similar voices may hear it and begin speaking with it. That's how Operation Dudula came about. It was voices that came out and said, we're not happy. That's how the Economic Freedom Fighters came about. That's how the African National Congress came about. That's how AfriForum came about. um, and a whole lot of other groups in this country. It's people that are speaking out for what they don't like. The guys at Operation Dudula, I'd like to think for a long time, didn't use the finesse of the system. The colonial systems expect you to have a lot of money, which most people don't have. And with this money, you then get lawyers, very expensive lawyers. And we're still not speaking about how expensive our lawyers are in this country. We speak about following the rule of law and the Constitution, which are protected by lawyers, magistrates, judges, who earn an insane amount of money. I've heard rumors that someone like a Diepsloot charges R1 million for a case. We don't speak about how expensive lawyers are and how just by that fact they exclude the masses of this country. You get told that there are legal aid clinics for people that don't earn well, but we've seen what free or cheap legal aid does for you. Usibongile Mani, the student from Walter Sisulu University, Ewusu, I believe it's Wusu, who got 5 years for spending an 818,000 Rand amount of a 14 million Rand total, which she received in her account by mistake, not her mistake, the mistake of a third party to the university and to the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS. She got 5 years. A few days ago, the CEO of SA Rugby, Yuri Roo, who has misappropriated. You know, when the media writes these articles, they're very specific in the English they use, and that's the power of propaganda. Misappropriated. I think it's 37 million Rand. And he has the audacity now to say he will only pay back the money if he doesn't lose his position. No jail time, no suspension, no being dragged by the media, no being called a criminal by the flip-flopping white racist on social media who said Sibongile Mani deserves it, by the flip-flopping clever blacks who said Sibongile Mani deserves it. Nothing. Marcus Jooste, who sunk Steinhoff, still living comfortably, gets to go to Woolies every day, gets to enjoy his life. So that's what not having money means in this country. And we're still complicit in the agreement that we're fine with this bogus legal system. I've been suspended off Facebook for 30 days until the 1st of May 2022. And it's because after Sibongile Mani, I made a tweet. And in that tweet, I was venting my frustration. And at the end, I said, it's time we burn the prisons and it's time we burn the courts. I screen grabbed and screenshot that tweet. I posted it on Facebook. And Facebook then decided to block me. And they said I'm inciting violence and vandalism. That's what happens when you follow the right channels. You know, people who have money, people who are privileged, people who are beneficiaries of this bogus system that oppresses the masses of our people, they'll always tell you about going through the right channels because they know that the right channels are rigged. So places like organizations like Operation Dudula, what they did is they were like, we don't have all these fancy things. We're going to fight ourselves. The police are not doing our people justice. There are people that are cramped with us in this space, in these townships, where white Afrikaans people relegated us to, away from our land and our villages. We're now cramped in these townships with people that shouldn't be here. We're fighting for scraps and crumbs with these people. Who Elvis Nyati, who was working as a gardener in Fourways, if he wasn't here, and I don't know whether he was illegal or not, by the way, but if he was not here as a Zimbabwean, that would have been an opportunity for another South African man to go and work in a garden and earn money. Don't know if the garden was a white person's garden or a black person's garden, because there are rich white and black people in Fourways, and they all have gardeners. We always assume that it's white people, but times have changed. The climate has changed. So when these people at the bottom are saying, but these people are taking our jobs, and leaders like Julius Malema has the audacity to speak about during the lockdown, to speak about, well, now that the borders are closed, do you have jobs now? Very arrogant, very misguided, very opportunistic. Understanding that the reason why we don't have jobs is because of the capitalist system. Because people like President Cyril Ramaphosa, who was the head of McDonald's South Africa, were there when McDonald's was implementing these gadgets, these self-service gadgets. that are killing jobs at McDonald's. Steers has done the same. They've got self-service gadgets. Our banks now, if you're not banking at an ATM, you're banking on your phone, killing jobs. And then some ignorant people will say, yeah, but technology creates new jobs. Not for South Africans. The teller at the bank, the cashier that works at McDonald's Steers, those people are not skilled in IT. And even if they were skilled in IT, and I'll tell you this straight, they probably want to be deemed too expensive in this country. The capitalists in this country say that our labor is too expensive. And it's true compared to Asia. Places like India, where you can get tech work done for a fraction of the price. So a lot of the IT work is being outsourced to places like that. So I think it was wrong for Julius to say stuff like that. And because he lives very cushy and he earns as an opposition leader, probably earns 200,000, probably 150 to 200,000 rand a month. Members of parliament earn 100,000 rand a month. They live in suburbs, they send their kids to private schools. Julius Malema himself sends his kids to private schools. Andile Mngitama, when we had a sit down with him and DJ Sbu on the virtual Mkuku, on the Hustlers Corner, spoke about servant leadership, Thomas Sankara, and they had a Sankara oath or code in the EFF manifesto, which has since been removed, which was inspired by Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara's killers were finally charged last week. Thomas Sankara being inspired by Ernesto Guevara de la Serna, Che Guevara is popularly known. Servant leaders who were saying no government official should be allowed to use private services. If you're a public administrator, if you're a politician, if you're a member of parliament, if you're a minister, if you're the president, you have to use public health care. You have to send your kids to public schools. In that way, these people have a direct incentive to improve the quality of the services they give to the people. Or Julius live in secured spaces. In secured spaces, but have the audacity to speak down on the people they claim to serve. It's very sad because Julius is a leader. A lot of us, including myself, I inspire very much. We look up to him. But just like the African National Congress before him, he seems to have become like the pigs and animal farm. He's enjoying now the quality life. Last week, the EFF went to go and march at one of Johan Rupert's farms. And it came out that I think the week before, Julius Malema and some of his privileged friends were at another farm. I don't know if it's in the area, where they were enjoying a quality life and enjoying wines such as Rupert and Rothschild's. The hypocrisy, the cognitive dissonance, the insanity. And they say, but you black people voted for these people. And I try to explain that a black person only has one vote. And a poor black person votes for a grant. They vote for an RTP house. They vote for public health care. They vote for NSFAS. That's what they're voting for with their one vote. It just so happens that that same vote then also votes for Naledi Pandor, Fikile Mbalula, Bheki Cele, Julius Malema, Floyd Shibambu, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, Tito Mboweni back then, Pravin Gordhan. If you voted ANC, you're voting for him, and you're like, but I was just voting for a grant. Yeah, but the grant comes with corruption, potholes, a Cyril Ramaphosa who's so detached from the people. With Operation Dudula was nowhere to be seen. With the looting, he was nowhere to be seen. With what's happening in Diepsloot is nowhere to be seen. When people are struggling, is nowhere to be seen. At investment conferences, is there. When money is being discussed, is there. When COVID vaccines are discussed or being delivered, he is there. Those are his priorities. The poor black masses are not his priority. But you voted for a grant, which means it came with him. And he bought his presidency. And we don't know what's going to happen with the ANC presidential or the ANC conference, I think, end of this year as well. It's the South Africa we live in. And it's because the people are not literate and they don't have money and they don't have power. So organizations like Operation Dudula take matters into their own hands. And then rogue criminals will ride on this because the people are so stupid. They jump on anything that seems cool at the time. If there's looting happening and you're not poor, but you're like, hey, here's an opportunity. We saw a guy who apparently went to Hilton, who I think was looting at Woolies. I think he was jailed or charged or whatever the case may be. There's opportunities for criminals. So if Operation Dudula is going out there looking for undocumented foreigners who also happen to be criminals, local South African criminals are going to be opportunistic and use those opportunities. We don't know if Elvis Nyati was innocent. His wife and I think his brother had spoken about how he was a peaceful man, and that's always the case, man. A mother who's got a child who's a drug addict, who's been raping, who's been stealing, who's been killing people. That mom won't go on TV crying about her dead son and be like, he was such a bad boy. Good riddance. She'll always be like, my son was a good person. He used to go to church. And I'm not saying they're lying about Elvis. I'm saying no one is going to say that their brother was rubbish and he was a thug and a criminal. No one. I don't know if he was involved. We heard that between 4 to 7 South Africans were killed the week before by supposedly foreigners. We also don't know if it was foreigners or not. The media, which is meant to do the investigations and the finding out and the reporting, are very selective in the work they do and what they report because there are agendas. Part of my issues with Operation Dudula was that it seemed like there was a focus on black foreigners. And I tried to defend them saying it's because they live with black foreigners. They don't live in Bedford View with the Europeans who are there, who might be legal foreigners. They don't live in Crown Mines with the Chinese who are there, who might be legal foreigners. They don't live in Fordsburg and Mayfair, where they may be illegal foreigners or undocumented immigrants who are from India or somewhere there in the western part of Asia. They're like, when I wake up in the morning, I see blacks. That's who I'm fighting for. If you live in Bedford View, go fight the white people there. If you live in Fordsburg, Mayfair, Crown Mines, go fight with the people there. If you live in Yeovil. And the media is selective and people on social media are very narrow-minded and they attack anything, like I've been attacked. So I said my view on foreigners was, look, we have laws that we've by and large agreed to, and no one should be here illegally. They should, if they're good people, leave and try and get in here legally. If they're bad, they need to be removed. But at the same time, I said, because I'm not a politician. I'm not government. I don't get paid for by tax money. Because I'm not some rich businessman who exploits immigrant labor. Because no one funds me to worry about this fucking country. I'm willing to work with any foreigner, legal or illegal, if it suits my agenda. If there's a burst pipe in my house and there's a Mozambican guy who's going to charge me 100 rand to fix it, I'm not going to ask for his papers. I don't give a fuck. The South African plumbing company is going to charge me 800 rand for the same job, and here's a Mozambican or Malawian guy who's going to fix it for 100 bucks. I'm not going to ask for his passport and his papers and give him UI. Fuck that. I don't have money myself. Women that are out there who need to have their hair done, and the South African entrepreneur on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, guys, please use my beautiful hair salon products, charging maybe 1,000 rand for a hairstyle. The lady from Zimbabwe for the exact same hairstyle is going to charge you 150 rand. Are you going to ask her, where's your passport? Where are your papers? Come on. When we have these conversations, man, we need to apply a little bit of brain. I know people are not smart. And I've said people are stupid and people catch feelings. I'm like, but you guys prove it every single day. You prove it every day that you're dumb because your thinking is narrow-minded, one-sided, based on the media. But it's the same thing I've said about crime and corruption in this country, that we're all complicit. People that have bribed traffic cops because they don't want to fine. People that have lied on NSFAS applications. People that have lied on grant applications. People who are teachers or nurses who steal stationery and medicine from where they work. Come on, man. So that was my stance. I was like, look, officially, illegal immigrants must go, but I don't stand with Operation Dudula and beating up people or whatever. And Operation Dudula hasn't been about beating up people. That's part of the misinformation going out there. But at some point, they did go out trying to ask certain suspected people to show their papers, of which I'd like to think they didn't have a right to. But again, if the South African police services are not doing their job and some of them are bribed, what must happen? What must happen? Now we've got all Bheki Cele that are grandstanding. Or Arun Mutsoaledi, the Minister of Home Affairs, grandstanding in places like Diepsloot, because they're coming in late because they haven't been doing their work there. They haven't. It took movements like Operation Dudula to shine a spotlight. Now they're there grandstanding, no, we'll bring police. Where have the police been? How many foreigners are in cramped spaces like Diepsloot? I've been to so many townships in Johannesburg. Diepsloot, Alexandra, Cosmo City, Olivenhout Bosch, obviously Soweto, Tembisa. Then the squatter camps. Places like Plastic City at Tsakani. Places like Jackson in Iconov. And a lot of those people are not South African. You can hear it in the music they're listening to. And you're like, how did Portuguese-speaking people get here? Do they have a tourist visa? Do they have a work permit, study permit? It's a mess. We're overcramped, overpopulated, and some people are trying to fix these things. And the same government that's meant to be protecting you is then going to attack you for trying to resolve the problems. Because they're too focused on enjoying tenders and their salaries. The cops and the traffic cops are too busy trying to get bribes from law-abiding citizens who just made small mistakes. They're scared of the criminal guys who have guns. And at the same time, they respect the guys who pay the money. I've asked before, Wuti, these Pakistanis that runs paza shops, how did they get in here? If they were on a tourist visa, they should not have been allowed to open a business. If they're on a business, if they have a business permit, I think you need 5 million rand to get a business permit in this country. How did they get here? How did they open shops? I mean, that's like low-hanging fruit. But your politicians don't care, man. Your president is busy with investment conferences, which are bogus. He's going to come and want a pat on the back. We've managed to raise 200 billion rand. It's bullshit. There are foreign companies in this country, a lot of them, especially in the automotive industry. Toyota, Isuzu, BMW, etc. Then obviously I've mentioned your McDonald's, KFCs, and there's clothing brands here. There's other big engineering companies here. There's a lot of foreign businesses here. And all of them have got 5, 10, 20-year plans. And part of their plans include investing in operational expenditure, OPEX, in this country. If I run a factory in South Africa and we need to spend another 100 million rand to expand so that we can make more money for our headquarters back in whatever country I come from, that's just how business works. Cyril is going to get all of these people in a conference, get them to be like, oh, what are you planning to do in the next 5 years? Oh, no, we've got a 100 million rand plan for expansion. Oh, everyone clap hands. And Cyril's going to be like, yeah, we've managed to raise another 100 million. No, you didn't raise anything. You're lying. You're fucking lying. And worse, what you're going to do with those guys who already had an OPEX plan to invest, to make more money out of us here. You're going to give them tax breaks and subsidies. And in return, you're hoping that they'll give you, maybe your son Andile, maybe your son Tumelo, maybe your wife Utsepo, maybe some of your other kids, maybe your brother who sits on boards, Cyril Ramaphosa, your brother, Ramaphosa himself, I'm not sure of his name, maybe your brother-in-law, Jeff Khadebe, maybe your brother-in-law, Patrice Mutsipe, maybe your sisters-in-law, your wife Utsepo Mutsipe's sisters, or Bridget, and your other friends, and friends in the Black Business Council who work very closely with you. And some of your white Jewish friends who are in business, some of your white Afrikaans friends who are in business, some of the Asians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Indians that you do business with, they're going to get board seats and opportunities. We've got Johnson & Johnson now who's working in tandem with South Africa's Aspen, which is owned by the Jewish Stephen Saad. Stephen Saad was one of the funders of Cyril Ramaphosa's presidential campaign. And it just so happens that Aspen gets the rights to push Johnson & Johnson, and they're going to be manufacturing here. That's the country we live in, and our people are so ignorant. And we've got problems. I was actually making this video because I wanted to isolate what happened to Elvis Nyati. So Elvis was killed. He was burned to death. The media reports said that he was killed by a small yet angry mob. Because we don't see the faces of the people that killed Elvis, it seems like all Black South Africans are guilty. So when I speak to my Zimbabwean friends or my other foreign African friends, you South Africans are killing us. I'm like, no, we're not. It's a small group of people who live in Diepsloot. I don't even live in fucking Diepsloot. But propaganda does that. If it had happened that it was a small bunch of maybe white people, I know the white media would have worked very hard to isolate those white people and said it's those people. The story of Marcus Jooste, for example, is the story of an isolated white Afrikaans man. It's not the story of the entire Stellenbosch. It's not a story of all the white executives at Steinhoff, of which Marcus Jooste had to work with a lot of people there, including a businessman I admire very much, Christo Visa, who was a huge shareholder in Steinhoff. But they isolated to Marcus Jooste. That's the danger of propaganda. And I've said this about GBV as well. When a woman like Ukarabo Mokoena, Uinene Mkhwetyana, when they are killed, we never see the faces of the men who killed them. We don't see the same effort and energy being pumped into showing the faces of these horrible, evil men. Instead, they pump the faces of these black women, and the story is black men are killing us. So that every black man is innocent by association because I happen to be a man that is black. On the other hand, we've had 2 or 3 big stories in this country of women who had killed their children. On the other hand, now the women, those women, and there was that woman who Rose, Lo Mama Lo, that had been killing her family members for insurance money. We saw her face. We saw the faces of the mothers who had killed their children. It wasn't that we were seeing faces of the children and the victims over and over. We don't even know the names of the children. The same way we know the names of Okarabo Mkwena, Nabo Uinene Mkhwetyana. Because what that would have done, if they pumped the names of the children, if they pumped the names of the victims, and in a similar fashion kind of blurred the faces of the women, it would have been like, guys, women are killing children and women are killing people out there. Be careful. It would be like, look, black women are actually killing children. Be careful. Every time a child is around a black woman, you're like, yo, please be careful. Black women are killing children. And there'd be hashtags and there'd be NPOs set up that are being funded to make sure that we're watching if black women, what are they doing around children? And that's why when black men say there's an agenda against black men, some people think we're being silly, we're trying to remove ourselves, but it's like, but guys, this thing is pretty clear. I stand with women who are being abused, who are victims, and I'm saying, let's work together and remove the evil. Yeah, but it's you black men. Speak to your brother. Like, I don't remember men going to women and saying, yeah, tell your sisters to stop killing our children. Tell your sisters to stop killing our celebrities or flabber. We're not doing that because we understand that those are isolated incidents of bad people. White people now have to carry the cross, bear the cross of the atrocities committed by colonial leaders, apartheid leaders. They of course, enjoy the privileges of being white. If a Cecil John Rhodes, if a Jan Smarts, if a Verwoerd, if a Johan Rupert, a Christo Visa, a Nicky Oppenheimer, if these people are doing great things for their race, they obviously become beneficiaries. So it becomes difficult for them to fight back. Privilege is nice. I've got male privilege. That means I can walk in a space and not feel like I'm going to be raped. So I don't have much of an incentive to fight for women's rights and gender equality because, you know, I have a better chance of being picked as a manager because I'm a man. Now, if I fight for gender equality, I might not get that opportunity because a better woman might get the job. Same with being a South African. It's South African privilege. I've got an ID here, so I look down on African foreigners that come from poorer nations because their white colonialists weren't as cool as ours, and maybe they don't have the mineral resources and the farms that our white colonialists exploited to build a better nation than their own. So I have South African privilege. Where's your ID? Where's your passport? I'm a black man. So white people don't have an incentive, but they have to carry the cross of a few people. Imagine if as a black person, you had to carry the cross of all evil created by black leaders. All corruption by the ANC governments. Like, yeah, but you black people are corrupt. But I'm not corrupt. Yeah, but look at what the ANC is doing. But I'm not in the ANC. And we do the same with white people and apartheid, where a white person's like, but I wasn't in government. I was just a white person. Yeah, but you should have done something. And a white person be like, but you're seeing ANC corruption. Why are you not doing something? The masses have to carry the cross of a few evil people. And these evil people almost get away with it. And they become friends with each other. And they always get the masses to point fingers at each other. A poor black person is going to fight with a poor white person and blame the poor white person for his poverty. And the poor white person is going to blame the poor black person for BEE and tenders and ANC corruption. Meanwhile, the corrupt ANC BEE fat cat is sitting comfortably in his Bryanston home, or his Sandhurst home, or his Camps Bay home, or his Mhlanga home, with his mate, a white racist Afrikaans leader who also made a lot of money during apartheid. And they laugh. Their kids go to the same private schools, while the masses bash each other, while the poor at the bottom are fighting each other for scraps, for small spaces in townships and squatter camps. Because at the top, things are not being fixed. We need to be really careful, man. We need to be really careful of what's happening out there. I'm hoping that through social media, platforms such as YouTube, people like myself will begin planting seeds that allow people to ask deeper questions. Why? How? Where? Why are the border fences down? Who is in charge of that? Yes, we heard a lady was killed, but who killed her? It can't be that all 29 million black men, or men rather. When are we getting the data of who's funding Cyril? How many foreign companies are here? Where does that money go? Where does Julius Malema live? How much does he earn? Is his home a free for all? Is he willing to house illegal foreigners in his home? He's spoken before about having a farm in Limpopo. Why doesn't he open his farm up to illegal foreigners to come and settle there and be an example of him saying, let's open Africa? So you've got a farm, let people come settle on your farm. Because you say this is Africa for all. It's one country. And when are we going to dismantle the Constitution, which is oppressive, celebrated by the whole world because it serves their interests? When are we going to dismantle Roman Dutch law, which doesn't serve our people, but still by and large serves the United Kingdom and the Queen, and along with her deployees in the Zulu monarch, in the South African president and our government, in our legal systems, in some of the big business people that benefit from some of these structures? When are we going to dismantle the agreements that were made at Codesa? I wasn't there. Nelson Mandela's passed away. Thabo Mbeki is no longer president. Jacob Zuma is no longer president. Cyril is president now, of course. But the rest of us were not there. So we'd like to say we don't agree with the terms of Codesa, and we'd like to say we want to see those agreements, and we'd like to remove some of them and create our own agreements. And we're willing to sit with white kids, Chinese, Indian kids that are here based in South Africa, that are South African, and we'd like to have a new negotiation. Our fathers and our grandfathers are no longer in power. We're in power now. We want to run stuff in the country, in our provinces, in our cities, in our towns, in our communities. When are we going to look at the United Nations, which it's become clear the United Nations serves the United States of America first and foremost? People want Vladimir Putin charged with crimes, war crimes, crimes against humanity for what's happening in Ukraine. Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George Bush. These are just some of the leaders, and it's not just them. It's the entire cabinets. It's all the people that were funding them. They were there when America was bombing Afghanistan, Iraq. This year, earlier, America bombed Somalia. How are those not war crimes? How are those not crimes against humanity? How are those people not seen as you have blood on your hands, Barack Obama? You speak so well and you're a great orator and you're such a great leader, but you're a killer. Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, the Bin Laden family. And I'm not saying these people are innocent. I'm saying there were a lot of innocent people that were killed. The United Nations serves the USA. And the USA, through its propaganda machines, Hollywood and the media and everything else, they try to put pressure on the rest of the world to bend and support them for bullshit so that they can surround Russia and increase their power hold across the world. That's why China is saying they're not getting involved in voting for that. That's why even in South Africa, initially Cyril Ramaphosa was saying Russia must stop. But clearly there was reason, or someone advised him, hey, Baba, check yourself. And we've got Naledi Pandor now saying, look, it's not fair that we're being forced to pick a side because there's no consistency at the UN. The World Health Organization, which is greatly funded by America as well, serves American interests. That's why your Pfizers and your Modernas and your Johnson & Johnsons are so big globally. I believe that's why BRICS was set up, to just dilute some of the power that the US and Europe have. Why do we have to sit at the UN? Why do we have to get permission from them? Why do we need to get a Nobel Prize? Why can't we come up with our own prizes in Africa that recognize excellence? Why is a Grammy Award more powerful than a South African Music Award or an African Music Award? It's because we don't respect ourselves as Africans, as South Africans. We constantly wait. Oh, he's won an Oscar, he's won a Grammy, he's won a Nobel Prize. Because you feel your own things at home are inferior. Because you don't own your mind, you don't own your greatness. When Penel says he's God, your mind resists and gets angry. It feels like I'm swearing at you because you've never seen a person, a black South African person who believes in himself so much that he sees himself at the ultimate level of being godly. I don't worship a Jesus Christ. I don't worship a Prophet Muhammad, a Buddha, and I don't worship their gods, a Christian God, an Islamic God. I don't. I worship myself. And that fucking scares people. How dare this guy worship himself? And it's dangerous because if he gets it right, he's going to get other people to worship themselves and see themselves as gods. And when we try and bring these external gods to control them, to condition them, to get them to behave a certain way, they won't work. Please stay warm. It's cold. It's wet. We need to have more conversations. I know sometimes we say, look, we talk, but we don't do much. But I think we need to do more talking because we're going to do like we've been doing on the ground and we're going to hurt the wrong people. Because clearly we haven't talked to a point where we have a strategy and a vision for what we're trying to do. Whether it's in communities, in provinces, in the country at large, removing the borders or updating the borders, dismantling the constitution or updating the constitution, dismantling the entire legal system, redefining what it means to be a South African or an African, finding out in detail who owns the companies in this country and what they're doing for our people, who owns the companies or the shops within our communities and what are they doing for the people. Can we build borders around our townships and choose who gets to be inside them? Where even a Cyril Ramaphosa or his rich white mates can't come into a township unless they have a visa that has been approved by the people of that community. Because I can tell you now, Cyril can't just walk into Orania, a private piece of land. Cyril can't just walk into Stain City. Cyril can't just walk into someone's home. But these guys can walk into any township and do whatever they want. Because black people, in particular in this country, don't have self-respect. They don't understand that they have the power to build gated communities around Ikas Labo and have a security which has a rights of admission reserved because the community has decided that, no, we will choose who gets in here. And if we don't agree with the president coming in, then he mustn't. He can meet us outside. That's power. That's education, not schooling. Education. Education, knowledge, information. Look forward to engaging with you guys soon, man. Have a great day. Stay winning.